Nearly every respectable, wealthy, successful peeps are university grades. According to my market researching.
We once had a school system that was aligned with talents, so that the talented could go on to develop their ability. This came from a time when resources were scarce, and in fact is why we developed a monarchy.
Monarchy? You mean kings and shit? How can luxury gold, blings and things be a careful use of limited resources? Why pull my ploinker? I wanted a serious debate.
This is a serious discussion. By taking a 10% tax from thousands of peasants, we had a common fund with which to develop intelligence and some idea of how to avoid the calamity of the next natural or man-made disaster. I mean a famine or invasion motivated by somebody else's famine problems. Survival was neither easy nor guaranteed.
Okay, I now think I understand where you are coming from. But back then they thought that royal blood was blue in color, and royal blood was passed on to their children. That is highly superstitious, I feel.
This is where the problem starts. Sir James Fraser wrote over a dozen volumes of anthropology on the subject of the dying king tradition. Every year a challenge for the crown would take place to ensure the fitness of the leader. This phenomenon occurred so often, in so many countries it was considered a natural aspect of human nature. In that way are we not so different from stags and wolves?
Okay, so in the past the value of inheritance was not as important as genuine fitness. But I bet there were a lot of dirty tricks to make sure that the outcome would suit vested interests. I mean, family and friends of the king would get involved in the contest.
Over time the system became corrupted, yes. That is very perceptive of you. This process has continued steadily as we consider ourselves more civilized than our ancestors. Then we look to classical Greece for an alternative answer that would not mean the sacrifice of good people before they had reached their potential and would also have less chance of being subverted by a secret plot. We had to find a better way of selecting leaders. The answer was democracy.
Right, so that old-fashioned stuff is not relevant to today. Or am I missing something?
Not really. All that has happened is that the original problems we faced have grown enormously. We now have to have thousands of leaders. As many as possible, in fact. I started by saying that talent was selected in schools. An age-old process of selecting the most fit has been subverted by the political left.
You mean that a target of 50 graduates is not necessarily a good thing for society? How so, when you have just said that we need as many leaders as possible?
The left have become confused. Successful people are not created by the institutions, such as schools and universities. You cannot put an unfit person through a program to produce a fit person. Or at least this may be the point around which the controversy revolves. Do we develop leaders or discover them? It really depends on how much tax we have to spend. If we take too much, then we have too many leaders that are not delivering a return on the public investment.
But surely the more leaders we have, then the greater our society will be, and the greater the opportunity for wealth creation.
You make logical sense. But we live in an increasingly connected world. And whereas human potential is unlimited, that also is under debate. Resources such as food and materials are constrained by the rate at which they can be excavated and processed by peasant labor. Leaders do not want to dig or work on manual or dangerous tasks. Instead, they wish to earn a great deal of money by being responsible for peasant labor.
Okay, so we have fiscal constraints. And some people argue that they are imaginary. If we borrow money from our neighbors, they will be happy for us to create leaders of their peasants?
Yes, the left's model may be oversimplistic. We live in a connected world, and our actions directly affect the successful outcome of other countries. It is better for us that other countries do not waste resources, or insist on us becoming their peasant labor force. This has happened many times in history.
Our ancestors found that money could be wasted very easily. And misallocation of funds was the most common way to cause a famine. It was often better for survival to progress slowly in the light of observation than to allocate resources based on the outcomes we wanted, instead. This is the perspective of the right.
So, who cares most for peasant labor? Is it the right perspective or the left?
A good question for another time.